In this video, we're going to be blocking out more of our level, giving some terrain, some elevation around the side of it. I'm going to deal with this. How do I have my guy come in from up high into the town so he's got a good view of it? And we're going to be stubbing in the placement of our core boss battle end of our level. Okay, let's continue on where we left off in our level. I'm going to go in and make a couple of tweaks. I've just been looking at this since last time we spoke. And I think that my water's a little bit too deep and it's a bit too close to this house because I want to have trees along here. Trees are going to give a good backdrop flavor to it. You're not really going to come up and see the river so much. So instead of 95, I'm going to make this 98 and see how it feels. Oh, okay, let's put this in here as our riverbed. Now just have a look. The player's not going to go in there. We're going to have a collision that says don't go in there. This is really just for aesthetics. It's more of a fast flowing creek than it is the Mississippi River. So I want to make it a little bit, yeah, that feels pretty good. So we're just going down by 2. We can have it as narrow, as wide as we want here. Speaking of wide, I'll make my brush a little bit wider. Just going a little bit fast and loose at the moment. Okay. I'm going to raise up that remaining part back up to here. Okay, and brush a little bit. Go and address the problem I had before. It was a little bit close because I was running around. It felt just like a little bit close. I want to have a path over there, and that didn't quite work for what I was up to. So let me go in and put the path back onto texture. Click on here, make sure the brush size is nice and small. The path, we don't need it for a truck, just for nice and small. Paint it in here, and I'm putting this path. I like to get a little bit of creativity going on here. Thinking about, well, the peasants would have been walking around the outside. They probably walked around the inside here. There's a little bit of grass going on. This is a path that the player might look at and say, oh, I'm supposed to walk around there. So that's pretty good. That's not too bad. A little bit of room. What I want to do is keep testing over and over. I want to reinforce this with you guys. Jump in there and test distances, heights, camera angles, and see how it's all feeling. I like the gap here now. The house is not getting in the way. If I'm coming here having a bit of combat, I probably want about that much space to fight in. And so when we get to about here, that's when we can put in a couple of trees. I've probably trimmed that back a little bit too far. So I'm just going to finesse. What I'm going to do in these couple of videos is finesse a little bit and then have you guys go off and do your own thing. But it's good to watch what I'm up to a little bit. And so we're all on the same page here, particularly if you're trying to follow exactly what I'm doing and you want to make your level look exactly like mine. I'd say don't make it look exactly like mine. Make it look sort of like mine if that's what you're doing, but it'd be really cool if you're making your own level. So through here, you're just seeing my approach, watching over my shoulder as I go through these techniques. And in a moment, we're going to put a nicer looking texture in there, I think, just to make it blue. And I'm going to show you at some point soon how to add some water, because water is very excellent. Oh, goodness me, what am I doing here? Okay, now, that's enough finagling with that little bit there. I just wanted to get that right, because I think it's a real pivotal moment in my scene, in my level. Now back to texture, I'm going to paint the dirt road leading over to where our final boss battle is going to be, where you head over into the castle. It's on this little island, and if you see the images that we brought in just recently, Rick's Village, it's this castle here that we're looking at. That's what I like as our inspiration. I'm not going to keep that in the scene permanently like I've got this guy here. We just need to know that over here we're putting a castle. It needs to be a little bit of a distance, so let's walk on over that way. Over here. We don't want the road completely straight. We want a little bit like the villagers are staggering down there. Okay, that's pretty good, I think. So that going to have to dig out our water in here now. Here, back down to 98. Doesn't like doing 98, does it? Wants to go somewhat close. It's being a little bit pedantic. A little bit pedantic. That's a bit too big. But, okay, so we're going to paint in here. We're going to... The river's going to bend around. I think I've probably gone a little bit too far with that dirt track all the way out to there. That's feeling good. So my idea is to have it a little bit distanced from the village. So you have to do your fight and then head down here. And from here, you'll be heading into like over a bridge into an island. And then the river would continue. I see it continuing back down this way, actually. Back down here. So actually, you know what we're going to do? I'll make this a lake. This is how we make our levels. We've got our inspiration, but the castle, it'd be on a lake. That'd be cool. And over the other side of the lake, it'd be a little bit inhospitable, so we're going to go and make some... We're going to raise it up a little bit over there, I think. Let's get a little bit creative over here. Just to say, this is the other side. The player's probably not likely going to see this. That's a bit too spiky there. Probably not likely going to see this, but it's good for us just to know the feeling of what we're doing in our level. Over there is mountainy kind of stuff. Says, thou shalt not pass. Castle in the middle. And then we'll give a little bit of... This is just stubbing out the overall feel for our level. I'm going to have mountains over the back there as well. Pump them up a little bit faster, a little bit bigger brush. It's just basically saying we're having our level within this sort of general area. I think that's good. I don't want to get those too high because at some point I want to have my elevation where we come into the scene. So it's all just macro at the moment, starting to get a feel for it. The reason I like doing this is we can start to build more and more of a relationship ourselves with the scene and take inspiration. So it's not just, when you're just doing blocks and you've just got grey blocks, that's fine from a functionality point of view, but for an RPG, there's also personality and quest and story, so I like getting a little bit more detail at this level than if it was a first-person shooter. I think a little bit more just keeping it purely functional for a bit longer is okay, and putting the polish in later. But for now, I like to just finesse it a little bit as we're doing here. Okay, so we need to raise up the ground in that point. So I'm going to make it back to 100. That's where our castle is going to be in here. Somewhere in here. It's all just going by feel. What feels good. Would a castle be there? Yeah, a castle would be there. There'd be enough of, this lake forming, making its own little moat type thing. How would the bridge go? Would the bridge come along, would the road come along straight and then the bridge be at an angle? Would the bridge be directly straight across? Probably be straight across. Not as dynamic, but I think a little bit more accurate for whoever lives here is going to want to come straight out and down the path, I think. Now I'll head back to 98 with this so that we can trim it back a little bit. I think, as is the case, you often have a little bit of it jutting out there. Okay, and then we're ready to put a bridge over there. It might be a little bit too long of a gap. We don't know that yet. I'll tidy it up a tiny bit here. And then this may or may not be big enough for the castle, but that's stubbing out where the castle would go. And this is a good point for me to go in and find what Mikey's given us for a castle. A mini castle, I believe it's called. Drop it on there. That's a pretty big mini castle, isn't it? It's like a maxi castle. I wonder which way. Where's the door? There's a door. Now, this castle's similar to what I had in mind, and this is where it's good to have conversations with your artist. He's created something brilliant here for us, but I'm picturing something where I go in and it's more of an open castle. It's busted. It's the ruins of a castle, as opposed to a pristine, fresh, awesome castle. If you remember my art direction vision, I'm really inspired to see everything busted, broken down, in a state of disarray. So that's something for now. We're placeholdering this. It's pretty cool. It says it's a castle. And then because I've dragged it in as a prefab, if Mikey comes in and makes changes to this prefab in here, if he updates that, then it's automatically going to update in my scene, which is great. For me, when I'm wearing my level designer hat, I don't need to worry about that. When I'm wearing my art hat, or if you've got someone on the team who's wearing the art hat, then the process flow is I can drop that in there and then he can come in and change that, knowing that it's in the right place and it's doing the right thing. Okay, so this castle, it's coming along really well. Pretty happy with this. And so we've got a moment here, boss battle. We're going to have a moment in the village. We'll put down some enemies at some point. Not yet. I want to map things out. I know I'll have a fight somewhere in here. Maybe a fight somewhere up the back. And possibly some battle or some sort of event from the village green down to the castle. And I'm thinking we need another house in there. These houses are looking a little bit too pristine. I think I'm going to need to ask him for like a shack to go in here. And I'm just going to denote that by sort of dropping it down a little bit in the world, saying, I think I want to have this as a shack. And one of the intentions I had with this level was, as I'm just going to paint a few more roads throughout, was to have it reusable. I'm a big fan of reusable assets, reusable levels. So this guy's hiding a bit over here now. Let's get you a little bit out. Is reusing a level. So if we come in, run down there, someone tells us, hey, go to the castle, you go down there, you have a fight. Maybe we go underground into the dungeons, we do some dungeon-y fight down there. That gives us a different type of level. It'd be cool. And then come back out, hey, you've got to now do something else. Run through here, something else has happened in town. We're reusing this stuff that we've built, reusing the assets, but different context, maybe we have some different enemies in there, and then we run out of town that way along the bridge. So we're not, the player's not being told just run backwards and forwards in the same spot, but we're reusing this central area, which I quite like as a philosophy. Get as much bang for your buck out of when you create one thing, use it twice, 3 times, reuse it, tweak it a little bit, and then you get a lot more mileage out of all the different assets and all the different setup that you've done. Back to the painting that I was talking about before. We'll make the player go around the house here. And then that's going to lead generally out of town. I'm imagining that there's some sort of pub up here, some sort of more hubbub going on. Maybe a town square. That would be cool. So a fountain. I saw a fountain in here before. How's that looking? Looking like it's invisible. Okay, won't worry about the invisible fountain. That's good feedback to pass on. The fountain's invisible. We'll paint through here. Okay, and then somewhere over here, we're going to have to modify some of our terrain, flatten that down a little bit. Okay, so that's the bulk of this first moment. Now, the bit that I've been putting off is to do our elevation. Let's go in here, make this 104 as a starting point, and we'll raise up a whole bunch of stuff to that level to show that this is where we're going to be coming in. Through the mountains, through the mountain pass. I like that from a narrative point of view. And then we're probably going to want to step it up one more notch, and then we'll have to do some smoothing out of what's happening here. Probably put some ramps in as well. Go up to 108. Stepping up by 4 each time, as you can see. Just to get a feel for how we might come down through the thingies, through the steps here. I think that might not be steep enough. Now, the thing that I want to do is test out how high do I need to get to so I get a really cool looking down on the village moment. That's the main reason I'm doing this, is to do looking down the village. So I'm going to grab my player and drag him. You're allowed to do this as much as you like. Plop him over there and say, what if he started over here? Then start the game. Here he is. So if I was running along here at this sort of elevation, with this sort of camera, that reminds me, we still have a little bit more tweaking to do on the camera. I'd see a little bit of the village, but I don't see, I don't see a lot of it. I think I need to push it up even higher in these areas and then deal with how do I get him down that slope in a little bit. But for now, let's raise it up to, I'll raise it up to 106 in that first part. And we'll see how that looks, just dropping him down there. So for you guys, you can be doing the same thing in your level. Have a look to see where you can get some interesting camera perspective, looking down on things. Have some ditches to walk past, some chasms. I think this is getting close for that bit there. That's not too bad. If I have him about, a path's probably that distance, yeah? If it's a narrow, winding path leading into town, so about here is where I would need to have it step up. Step it up to 110. Whoop. Tip as well, you guys might know this already, but if you click on Y, we get a top-down view up here, and it allows us to be a little bit more precise with our painting on the Y-axis. Okay, and then if we just rotate as we were doing before, then we get back down there. If you hold the right mouse button, you guys probably know all this stuff already. Mouse button, you can look around, and while you're doing that, if you hold the WASD keys, then you can move around. I think Ben's told you that already. Let's grab our player again. Grab our player, put him over here, move it up. Great that the camera follows him. Okay, that's looking really cool, isn't it? As I run along, I can see, hey, there's a village down there. I can see your house from here. I like that. So we can have a starting moment where the player's coming around a corner, probably about here, that he comes around a corner, and then sees a reveal. So this is the grand moment that I've been going for in this whole approach to building out my level. I've been pretty excited to get this part built. So I want to create something for him to run around, and I can increase this up to 112, I think. Put a little something in here for him to dodge. That looks great. And I've left a bit of a mess here. A tip for you, haven't talked about this yet. If you hold down the Shift key and then click left mouse in a particular area on the terrain, then it'll reset the height to be the height of the thing you clicked on. So you don't have to keep going into the typey box there and typing. You can just do that and straight back in. So I like that. And then if I wanted to click here and, oops, my bad, wrong button, Shift click, and then that's going to increase it up there as well. Wonderful. So let me just test this out. I think we're getting pretty close to saying we've blocked out most of the key elements. The key geometry, that's great. So if I'm starting from here, we might need this a little bit higher. I come around the corner, run. Oh my goodness, there's a village. That looks very pretty and quaint. And then I need to start running down a hill. So I can probably have him cut down here straight away. So around about here, have him cut down, start heading down towards the village. So what I'm going to do now is hand back over to you guys to go and map out all of the geometry and the core building placement for your entire level. That is the challenge. Add in all the level moments, create the terrain, add the placeholder assets, and show at least one person. If you are ready to share in the discussion, take a screenshot and share. That'd be fantastic. What I'm going to do is go ahead and complete all the fiddling to get the heights and plop in the assets based upon my sketch. So next time you see my level, I'm going to have all those elements in it, and I'll show you just the process that I went through. So go forth, create your level, block in all the moments, put in the assets, and I will see you in the next video.